It has been a case and a trial like no other. Karen Reed, a college finance professor, accused of murdering a Boston police officer. John O'Keefe, her boyfriend of 2 years. Prosecutors say she struck him with her Lexus SUV, knocking him to the ground and leaving him to die in the cold as a winter storm struck Canton, Massachusetts. Karen Reed claimed her innocence, alleging a law enforcement conspiracy and cover-up, and supporters from Massachusetts and around the world joined her in her allegations, spearheaded by a local YouTuber named Turtle Boy, who became her strongest advocate, mobilizing a movement. Now, in her second trial, all the evidence is in, the arguments have been made, and the jury has spoken. And tonight, we are live from Dedham, Massachusetts, with all the big moments and all the reaction and analysis in the Karen Reed retrial of the century. I'm Vinnie Politan. Thank you so much for joining us tonight on Closing Arguments. What a day, what a night, what a scene here in Dedham, Massachusetts. I've been calling it the retrial of the century, and it lived up to its billing. I mean, what happened here today is something you experience, I don't know, maybe once or twice a century in a trial. And in this case, it's not a celebrity trial. It's a woman and her boyfriend, defendant and victim. And then the public mobilized. They were all here. In the next 2 hours here, as we're live just outside the courthouse where all this happened, we're going to have all the reaction, all the insight, all the big moments, and all the players that you've been watching throughout, to see what they have to say about what happened in the courthouse today. If I sound a little loopy at times, it's because I am. It's been a day, a long day, an adrenaline-filled day. Then the adrenaline, you know, flushes out of your system, and you've got to recharge, re-energize, and refocus, and that's what we're going to do. But if things go off the rails tonight, that's why, okay? That's why. So let's get to it. There's a lot of things to cover here, but it all starts with Court TV crime and justice correspondent Matt Johnson, seated to my left here in front of the courthouse. Matt, first of all, for me,
take a deep breath, right?
Yeah, no. There's a drain of energy once the moment ends, right? And the show, and now we're back on the air, so I'm a little loopy. How are you feeling?
The same, right? Like you're living off of caffeine and adrenaline as we're covering this historical moment.
Yeah, oh, it is.
A historical moment for this community that has waited for this decision for more than 3 years. Finally, a verdict after 2 trials. And then also, you know, the country's watching.
Yeah, they are. Here's the other thing. You think about this courthouse. I go back to it because I was talking about it a lot during the first trial. Sacco and Vanzetti.
Right.
Was the trial like this, only everyone thought 2 Italian Americans were guilty, they were railroaded, they were tried in cages and convicted. They were innocent. They were ultimately pardoned after they were dead and executed. Here was a woman who the public thought was wrongfully accused, with a much different result.
You have made that comparison in the past, and the other day when I was walking past the courthouse during one of the 4 days of deliberation, they actually have a memorial, a rock with a plaque for that trial.
Yes.
And I was thinking, I wonder if one day they'll have a plaque because this was the site of this trial.
I think it's extremely possible with all the ramifications. The other thing that I learned from someone here is that one of the descendants of Sacco was here with the Karen Reed supporters.
Really?
Yes. They didn't. I don't think they wanted to be identified, but to me, that brings us full circle. So let's get to it.
Yeah.
Let's walk everyone through that verdict today.
We have a lot to cover.
Yes.
So 21 hours of deliberations over 4 days. You were here for it all. I was here for it all. The growing number of supporters outside. Inside, when this is all playing out, you have Karen Reed called back to the courthouse. She was walking in. Again, she wasn't answering anybody's questions, but I asked her, how are you feeling? Are you ready for a verdict? She told me yes, she's been ready for a verdict. And she walked in, right? So we didn't know what was going to happen, what that verdict was going to be. She didn't either, because clearly she was hugging her family, possibly for the very last time. And then the clerk of court, Jim, he stands up, he's in his suit, and he reads that verdict. Let's listen.
Mr. Foreman, on docket number 2282-CR117001, murder in the second degree, what say you? Is the defendant at the bar guilty or not guilty?
Not guilty.
So say you, Mr. Foreman? So say you? No. Do you agree?
Yes.
Do all of you agree?
Yes.
Thank you. 002, what say you? Is the defendant at the bar not guilty or guilty?
Not guilty.
Of?
Is not guilty or guilty about that charge or any lesser included charge? Thank you. Specifically, number 5, operating under the influence of liquor by operating a motor vehicle with a blood alcohol level of 0.08 or greater. Correct?
Yes.
So say you, Mr. Foreman?
Guilty.
So say you all?
Yes. Guilty.
003, what say you? Is the defendant at the bar leaving the scene after accident resulting in death? Is the defendant not guilty or guilty?
Not guilty.
So say you, Mr. Foreman? So say you all? Jurors, hearken your verdict as the court records that you upon your oath say the defendant on 001 is not guilty, on 002 is guilty of operating under the influence of liquor, and 003 not guilty. Thank you.
Mr. Brennan, what's the Commonwealth's recommendation?
Your Honor, the Commonwealth moves for sentencing. We recommend a probation, 1 year, 24D program.
So the standard that everybody else gets on their first time OUI?
Certainly.
Okay.
We ask that she be treated no differently, no better.
So I'm happy to do it.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you all.
Such a historic moment. During the reading of the verdict, you saw this defendant who was on trial for murder a second time, wiping away those tears after her attorney, Alan Jackson, is explaining to her that it's the lesser of the lesser of the lesser. And then you heard the crowd. We were out here during all of that.
Oh, yeah.
The crowd erupting. On the steps of the courthouse, they had been growing. They rushed to the barriers. It was quite the scene. If we can show you some of that video and then show you that reaction.
So say you, Mr. Foreman? So say you all? Jurors, hearken your verdict as the court records that you upon your oath say the defendant on 001 is not guilty, on 002 is guilty of operating under the influence of liquor, and 003 not guilty. Thank you.
Again, out here on the courthouse steps, there was hundreds of people out here. They shut down the street. It seemed like people were telling us that they were rushing to the courthouse. They were listening. They were watching on court TV.
Because there was a little bit of lead time, right? The word came down that there was a verdict.
Because there was the false verdict.
Yeah, so they had, 10, 15, 20 minutes to get down here when everyone knew something was happening and it was a verdict. You know what was interesting about the reading of the verdict? We were talking about the confusing count 2 of this whole thing.
Correct.
The confusion manifested itself in the reading of the verdict. Is Massachusetts going to learn the lesson here? Like, even that was an awkward moment. Because, I'm listening, and well, okay, they said not guilty, but is it not guilty? And then they're talking about charge 5. It was.
And then they had to ask the foreman, is this what you mean? And is it the number 5? And then, it was an awkward moment.
Learn the lesson. Learn the lesson. Fix it, Massachusetts. It's not the judge's fault. It's Massachusetts' fault. Fix it. That was a little strange, right? In a case of this magnitude, to not have things so crystal clear. But in the end, it's all cleared up. The reaction after the verdict. What's happening next here?
Well, first I wanted to tell you about reaction after the verdict, and it took a while for Karen Reed to get out. So you were over here hosting our wall-to-wall coverage, and when all of that is happening, and I'm across the street in the media pool that is growing, the gaggle that is just dozens and dozens. It was 3 deep from the curb, right? It was just so deep, full of media. And then Karen Reed finally makes her way out after she had been sentenced for that lesser of the OUI to 1 year probation. And she addressed the fact that she thanked her supporters, she thanked the media, and she, of course, thanked her attorneys. Let's listen.
I could not be standing here team of attorneys. Our first one that we found was David Yannetti. We added Alan Jackson and Liza Little. Barbalesi, you know about. All right? It was a fantastic team, but we needed them all to defeat this. We thank everybody for their support from the heart. We love you all of the content providers who help spread the word. Thank you so much. God bless you all.
And, you know, this was their moment.
That's
all we heard from was the defense on the courthouse steps. It was Special Prosecutor Hank Brennan, Adam Lowley, even Mike Morrissey, who could have been here, the Commonwealth. They did not make a statement.
No statement.
They left through the back.
It was a hostile crowd. There would be no reason for them to come out.
The O'Keefe family have not released a statement, as I know yet.
Right.
But certain witnesses did, including the McCabe family and the Albert family. I'm going to read it in part. Let's put it on your screen. I have it right here. They write a joint statement. Today, our hearts are with John and the entire O'Keefe family. They have suffered through so much and deserve better from our justice system. While we may have more to say in the future, today we mourn with John's family and lament the cruel reality that this prosecution was infected by lies and conspiracy theories spread by Karen Read, her defense team, and some in the media. The result is devastating miscarriage of justice. After that, you know, there have been other parties that did descend the stairs. Again, it was interesting to note that those families were not here for verdict watch, for closing statements like we saw last year. Remember?
Right.
They were all witnesses. They sat and looked directly at the jury that was about to deliberate. We didn't see that this year. They weren't at the courthouse. But we did see Turtle Boy, who has been quite widely, you know, connected to the case and drawing the attention to it right away.
He was the advocate, and these people are here because of what he started, the Free Karen Read movement. You know, you speak to the folks and they all reference that. They reference, that's how I learned about this case. A lot of the locals, that's how they found out about it initially, and that's what drove them into the movement. You know, it was interesting when you were playing, I'm glad you played those statements from Karen Read and her father when they were speaking, because when I was on this side of the street when they were speaking, I couldn't see them and I couldn't hear them.
I couldn't hear them.
And you were next to them.
When I was right next to them, I was probably 7 feet away from them, probably less, but I could not hear them. And then they leave the podium. I was surprised that Alan Jackson didn't address the crowd. David Yannetti, who was there from day one, was not addressing the crowd. I'm sure we'll hear from him soon.
I think they'll be doing some television media interviews, but just standing on the courthouse steps with Karen Read in that moment is the statement they're making, because if she was found guilty, she's not on the steps. She's in cuffs and she's taken out the back.
Right.
So that didn't happen. To me, that's the loudest statement that they made. All right. What happens next now? Okay, so what happens next is there is still the civil suit, which was filed last year after the mistrial that happened in 2024. So the O'Keefe family is still suing Karen Read for wrongful death. So that still needs to play out. Without the murder 2 conviction here, it could be a situation to where, like we saw with Gabby Petito, where it just settles. We don't know. It could settle. But we'll follow it. And then, of course, I've been asking this defendant, Karen Read, the possibility if she is found not guilty, what her life looks like. And I was trying to get that answer outside the courthouse today. So let's play that.
Karen, what is life like going to be for you now? Karen. Karen, what is life going to be like for you now? How do you feel?
You see all of the police there, and they meant business. They did not want us following them. That's the first time I've been pulled back by my collar.
Oh, really? You got collared. You got collared today.
But it's okay. They're doing their job.
They're doing their job. Unbelievable work, Matt, throughout all this.
Same to you.
Thank you so much. And the folks at home should be thanking Matt. 2 years here in Massachusetts covering this, just the trials. And he was here before the trials as well.
Trial hearings,
investigating this for us. Thanks so much. Okay. The reaction outside the courthouse, as Matt has described, it's unlike anything that we've ever seen. Take a look, take a listen.
I'm so excited and I'm so happy that God answered our prayers and have set her free.
What was your thoughts when the verdict was read?
I'm just beside myself. I'm so happy we waited for this, and justice is finally served. Now we can get justice for John O'Keefe.
Free Karen Reed, I love you. Thank you. Thank you for everything, Karen. Massachusetts history. We got the justice that we deserve for the O'Keefe family as well. We send our love.
There's so many different emotions, you can't go through them. First is really, it's like a 100 bricks being lifted off your chest. It's the initial not guilty. So I haven't been able to process it, all of the emotions yet, but there's a lot of emotions going on through right now.
Justice, to see justice served. This was history in the making.
Yeah, talk to me about how long you've been vested in this process.
Years, the whole time.
What sparked your interest?
The 227 Google search, the McCabe butt dials, all of the inconsistencies. Proctor having it wrapped up in 16 hours, like he didn't investigate anything. And that's sad for John's family. I've also lost a child, her mom. So I know what that's like.
I'm sorry about that.
So I know what that feels like. So I feel for her, I do. And I know that it's easy to just blame whoever's in front of you, but they need to blame the investigation.
What does this mean for this community in this moment? Because the community, depending on who you talk to, is divided.
But if you look around, it's really not. What do you see? A sea of pink. You don't really see the blue. And I don't say that they don't have some support, but they're not out here supporting.
I think that they do have a lot of support. You know, I mean, it's a polarized.
They're not showing up.
But what does it mean now that we have this chapter closed? Does it still continue?
They'll go after the investigation. Hopefully, they'll go after the people that screwed up, them not getting justice for their son.
Unreal. Absolutely unreal. Let's bring in our Karen Reed trial insiders who've been helping us throughout this case. Joining me live in Dedham, Karen Reed supporter and insider Nick Rocco and John DePietro, host and creator of Road Patrol Live. Gentlemen, welcome. Great to see you. Nick, I want to start with you because you've been so integral in all of this, right? As part of the Free Karen Reed movement, Justice for John O'Keefe and Karen Reed Facebook page, the money that you've helped raise, everything else that you've done connected to this defense team. What are you feeling tonight at this moment?
It was a long 3 years that we've all been part of this, and I'm glad it's over. I'm glad the truth has come out, what we've been saying for the past, 2 years, 2.5 years. We've been saying this repeatedly of what we believe happened, and ultimately the jury believes what we believe, what 90% of the public believes, that Karen Reed didn't do this. And, they did find her guilty of the OUI. She got 1 year probation. I believe she has to take a class, as most first-time offense does. But the Commonwealth walked in with murder charges and left with an OUI. Yeah. So,
how about for you personally? Are you drained?
Yeah.
What happens next in your life here? Because this has been a big part of it. You're a business owner. You have all these other things going on. You've got kids. I mean, you've got the whole thing going on.
No, it's time to go back to the real world, get back to working and being back at home. It's been a lot. It really has. I've never been a part of something like this before. I was grateful to be a part of this, but it's time to take a break.
And one more follow-up. Do you feel appreciated by Karen Reed and her defense team? Because there's a lot of things that you've done here that added to this result.
Yeah, the whole team. I mean, I've talked to them throughout the whole trial. They were very appreciative of what we did, because a lot of the money that we had coming in through the fundraising allowed these experts that they put on the stand to, get her the not guilty verdict. So every penny that everybody has donated really made a big difference in this case.
All right, John DePietro. There was a moment today. We talked about it already. I don't know if the folks at home saw it. I'm going to show it to them, okay? John DePietro has been an advocate. You've seen him on our show, believing in the prosecution's case here. The crowd outside not believing in the prosecution case, but they all know John DePietro. Take a look and listen to what happened when he exited the courthouse today after the verdict. So, John, what was that moment? First of all, what was that moment like for you when you've got hundreds and hundreds of people gathered out here?
Thousands.
Yeah. Did you? What did you feel? What was going through your mind?
I was just thinking. I was in the courtroom, and I just feel for the O'Keefes. And also for the witnesses. This has been a long haul for them. I know the people out here are saying justice for John O'Keefe, but for the O'Keefe family and what they've been through, and they're there, and they're hearing people cheering outside, and we could hear the cheers inside the courtroom.
The microphones. We heard it on the microphones during the verdict.
Yes. Okay.
We did.
So my point is, I can take the bows and arrows, and it just comes part of it, because when you get involved with a case this divisive, I didn't think it'd be this divisive, but my main thought was I just felt so bad for the O'Keefe family, for the witnesses, and also Hank Brennan. I think he really put his heart and soul into this case. This is not the outcome they wanted. The verdict is the verdict, but that's the way it came down.
I'm feeling bad for Hank. The guy made over $300,000 to prosecute this case, and all he did was land an OUI.
Well, he didn't have to do this. I think he put on a brilliant prosecution. And I think on the case, the merits of the case, he was very, very strong. He just didn't get the verdict he was looking for.
All
He
right.
lost.
Our insiders are staying with us. We've got two more that are going to join our program when we come back. Plus, coming up next hour, who is responsible for the death of John O'Keefe?
Join Court TV's Vinnie Politan with the latest and breaking true crime stories.
Now, let's look at the other side of all of that.
Vinnie Politan Investigates. Tonight, 9/8 Central, only on Court TV.
The brutal murders of 4 University of Idaho students.
Detectives arrested Bryan, Kohberger.
I pray that we have justice.
The Idaho College Student Murders Trial. Live coverage begins this August, only on Court TV.
On murder in the second degree, what say you? Is the defendant at the bar guilty or not guilty?
Not guilty.
002, what say you? Is the defendant at the bar not guilty or guilty?
Not guilty.
Is not guilty or guilty about that charge or the lesser included charge?
Lesser included.
Thank you. Specifically, number 5. Operating under the influence of liquor, by operating a motor vehicle with a blood alcohol level of 0.08 or greater. Correct? So say you, Mr. Foreman?
Guilty.
So say you all? 003. What say you is the defendant at the bar leaving the scene after accident resulting in death? Is the defendant not guilty or guilty? So say you, Mr. Foreman? So say you all?
Yes.
All rise.
An unreal scene. I've never seen confetti at a verdict. Never, ever, ever. But this was different. This was a different case from the beginning. Every aspect of it, another twist, another turn, another thing that I've never seen before. I want you to take a look at this because a central character in all of this was the lead investigator who didn't testify in the second trial, former trooper Michael Proctor. ABC's 2020 has an exclusive interview with him. Take a look at a piece.
At what point did you develop such strong negative feelings about Karen Reed that you would say things like, hopefully she kills herself, or calling her the C word?
Those feelings developed as the case went on.
I mean, can you see how people might think, he was caught in this instance speaking about a suspect in this way. Maybe it's happened in other cases as well.
I 100% understand why people would think that. But when you have, you know, a fellow police officer around my age, 2 kids of his own, it generates an emotion. And I expressed those emotions in a negative way, which I shouldn't have. I shouldn't even, you know, been texting my friends anything. They are what they are. They don't define me as a person. You know, they're regrettable.
Unreal. And he was a central figure in this retrial as well, especially during Alan Jackson's closing argument, weaved throughout. Let's bring back in our insiders. Joining me live here in Dedham, still with me, Karen Reed supporter and insider Nick Rocco, John DePietro, host and creator of Road Patrol Live. Also joining us, former prosecutor Margaret McLean. She's also the host of It's a Crime with Margaret McLean podcast, and attorney Ali Crothamel, who was here last night with us. Let's get reaction. Margaret McLean, your reaction, this verdict today.
Wow. That's all I can say. You know, I think Proctor tainted this case from the very beginning. The jury obviously had questions. They had reasonable doubt. I think they bought into the theory there was no collision. I also think that that the sweatshirt, the holes in the sweatshirt really didn't match up with the injuries on his arm. So a lot of people going back to the injuries really don't match up. And ultimately, wow, just an OUI. So Karen should be very happy tonight. The jury has spoken.
Oh, I'm sure she is. Ali, your thoughts, your reaction tonight.
My thoughts are this is the most expensive OUI trial ever, and it shouldn't have gone this far. And I am so honored and happy that the jury saw through this corruption, collusion, and disgustingness of this investigation, and they have rendered the correct verdict in this case.
Let me ask you, John DePietro, about former trooper Michael Proctor.
Yes.
He didn't testify.
He did not.
I think that's a problem, right? You don't call the lead investigator. You can call him case manager. He was the lead investigator in the first trial. I don't know how that changed the second trial. I don't know how he got demoted, you know, for an investigation that was already completed. What are your thoughts about his role in the results of what happened here?
You know, Vinnie, how he played into this, and again, it goes back to that federal investigation that they were looking in. That's how they lifted his text messages. They never found any element of police corruption, but it did taint things, unfortunately. And it also tainted ARCA. We never really got a full handle on that relationship between ARCA and the defense. And again, that goes back to the federal investigation. So it seems as though this case could never get rid of that federal investigation that carried the ghosts of Proctor into this. And then also, I always just thought those ARCA guys, there was something unseemly with the relationship with the defense.
You're going after ARCA.
Yes.
The lead investigator got fired.
I understand that. But when they investigated him, they didn't get fired because of that there was corruption with the investigation. You didn't see texts of saying it's all set, I set her up, or the planning of, he was villainized. I'm not in any way trying to defend, and he's not trying to defend
I
the message. But what I'm saying is, I think they really use that. I don't know. You know what, I don't know what happened with this jury. I don't know if it's, I don't know exactly what happened, because I think the evidence was overwhelming.
So, Nick, what are your thoughts about Trooper Proctor after this verdict?
He got fired from his job as a Massachusetts state police officer. He lost his job due to his conduct in this case. The Commonwealth didn't call him because he was no good to them. He absolutely taints everything in this because he had a hand in all of the evidence. I mean, you have the text messages. Yes, they came from the feds, and thank God they did, because it shows what type of person he was at the time he was investigating this case.
Listen,
and
if they started taking text messages from police of what they're saying about suspects.
But it doesn't matter. The federal investigation looked into a lead investigator, someone who serves and protects the public, that gets paid by the taxpayers, is talking about people that he's investigating that way. And not to mention the fact that he was fired. So it doesn't matter what he was fired for. It had to do with this case. And that just goes to his credibility. He would never be able to testify in another case. And you know the outcome of this. Everyone that he was a part of the case is going to want a retrial. They're going to want some type of mistrial. Anything that's going on, any conviction.
I'm not convinced that's going to happen. But
We'll
as
see.
far as you didn't have him planting evidence or anything, as much as there were accusations for that, I still think that we don't know the answer of why there was a not guilty.
That's why the
today.
jury. But
we don't know.
They don't know either. They don't know what happened.
I don't. Well,
they don't know what
we
happened,
need
which is
to-
reasonable doubt because the Commonwealth didn't
I'm
put on a
not
case.
convinced of that. They
so
put
why
on
did they vote
an overwhelming case.
Why did they vote not guilty on everything?
With the Lexus data of her
That
vehicle
clearly
backing
didn't matter
up,
because
with the
they voted
temperature
not
of the
guilty.
phone, right? That was very impressive. The
What
way
was the
they did
verdict?
the reconstruction.
What was the verdict?
We don't know why there was a not guilty
What was the
verdict.
verdict, though?
We all know what the verdict is, but the question is,
What was it?
It was. She's not innocent, but she's not guilty.
Not guilty. Okay. Guests are staying with us. We've got more to get to. I've been calling it the retrial of the century. All of that played out today.
You agree?
The reaction, the verdict. Karen Reed is free tonight. She's on probation, but she is free tonight.
Is not guilty.
I'm so excited and I'm so happy that God answered our prayers and have set her free. She's not guilty.
What was your thoughts when the verdict was read?
I'm just beside myself. I am so happy. We waited for this, and justice is finally served. Now we can get justice for John O'Keefe.
And that's such an interesting line in all of this, getting justice for John O'Keefe, because justice for John O'Keefe meant something completely different for folks supporting the prosecution and folks supporting Karen Reed. That's a Karen Reed supporter. Justice for John O'Keefe now is investigating people who were at 34 Fairview Road. It's not going to happen, okay? It's not going to happen. You know, they didn't go searching for the killers in the OJ case. If the prosecution believes they have the correct person on trial, they're not going to turn around and go after someone else and continue the investigation. That's like an admission of prosecutorial misconduct, so it's not going to happen. I want you to take a look at this, though. This is the reaction from the other side. This is Paul O'Keefe in the courtroom at the moment that the verdict is read. As we take a look at him, you'll see his reaction at that moment. It's not easy. It's subtle there, but it's not easy. It's not easy. I've spoken to victims in similar circumstances, right? Families that are not getting their sense of justice. They never get closure because they lose their loved one. But for them, getting a guilty verdict for the person they believe is responsible is a sense of justice, and they can turn the page. It's not closure, but they can turn the page. This family will not be able to do that. They will not be able to do that. I want you to take a look at this. Peggy O'Keefe spoke with ABC's 2020 as well. I also spoke with them about the case. Take a look at some of these clips, and then we're going to bring back in our insiders.
Whenever you have a retrial, there are going to be changes. It doesn't make any sense to use the same strategy as the first trial because it's clear the jury didn't buy parts of your story.
The prosecution's story this time is more focused, more vivid. And the prosecution adds something that was lacking in the first trial.
Commonwealth calls Peggy O'Keefe.
Emotion. O'Keefe testifies about the phone call that every mother dreads.
Yeah, she said John was found in a snowbank. And I didn't understand, which I said, what do you mean found in a snowbank? They found him in the snow. They don't know what happened.
She was a very powerful witness, not just in what she said, but how she said it. It really makes the jury understand that, you know, a man, a real person is gone. Let's bring back in our Karen Reed insiders. Still with me, Nick Rocco and John DePietro here in Dedham, along with Margaret McLean and Allie Crophamel. Margaret, how about that for the family, the O'Keefe family tonight? What are your thoughts about them? What do you think they are potentially going through tonight with this verdict?
Oh, they must be just devastated because they've lived with this for 2 years. And yeah, as you mentioned, in their minds, Karen Reed did it, you know, and I also think they were close with Hank Brennan during this trial. I think Hank did an excellent job, by the way. It was a tough case to try, as we mentioned last night, very complicated. But my heart really does go out to the victims of crime and what they will be filing, they have filed a civil case of wrongful death against Karen Reed and the 2 bars, so that'll probably settle. Who knows? But I feel for them.
Allie, what are your thoughts about, the other side, right? There's a man who died. There's a man who was killed. There's no answer for the family tonight. What are your thoughts about the O'Keefes, Peggy and Paul and the rest of the family?
Of course, my heart goes out to them. They lost their son and they lost other members of their family. So, of course, that's tragic. And like Margaret said, they believed Karen Read did it. But if I were them, and I stepped back and looked at this objectively, my thought would be I'd want the right person behind bars. They just potentially tried to ruin Karen's life. She would spend the rest of her life in prison. And that's taking somebody innocent off the street. Alan Jackson said it perfectly today. You have exonerated an innocent woman.
Nick, let me ask you, being part of the movement, and that John O'Keefe's family coming in and out, and what they believe. Did that put you and others in the Free Karen Read movement in any sort of an awkward position? Was it difficult to deal with that?
No. Everyone is obviously entitled to their own opinion, and I'm not really here to change anyone's opinion except tell you what I believe to be the facts in this case. And even being in the courtroom, to be honest, you're very, very close to them. When you're sitting behind Karen Read in the defense team and they're sitting next to Karen and her defense team, I wouldn't even say, there's not much tension between the two sides because we're not really looking at them. They weren't really looking at us. But I do feel horrible because, no parent should have to bury their children. And unfortunately for Mr. and Mrs. O'Keefe, they've had to do it twice. So when it comes to today, yes, I am happy that Karen Read has been set free of these charges. But at the end of the day, I still do want to see justice for John O'Keefe. And like you said, I don't think anyone is going to look into it.
It's not going to happen. What could happen, John DePietro, though, if there's this civil wrongful death case, it's different.
It is.
It's different, but it's different for both sides, right? There's discovery going both ways. So if they go after Karen Read, as part of her defense, may be able to depose some of the people who didn't have to testify, may be able to get records that weren't granted by this judge in this case. So what are your thoughts about that?
Well, you remember at the end of the first trial, Paul O'Keefe on the way out said to Karen Read, "I'm not done with you yet." I mean, he had no reaction today. This whole notion that somehow there's something, the other witnesses are hiding something, I don't know what that would be, because I think this was pretty cut and dry. I think the Commonwealth did a good job as far as recreating what happened. I know Nick Rocco doesn't feel that way, but I just don't know what they think they're going to find if they dig into some of the witnesses. Because one thing that this proved was he was never in the house, and they even abandoned that. So in the civil trial, I'd be curious, how does she go after people that were in the house that they gave up on the third-party culprit in this trial?
All right, we're just about out of time, so what I want to do is go around the horn. Everyone, 15 seconds. I want you to answer one question. I ask it at the end of every verdict. I'll begin with you, Margaret. Was justice served today?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, was justice served?
15 seconds.
For Karen Read, and the jury has spoken. That's what I'll say. And I do believe in the system of justice. And so, in that respect, justice has been served.
Allie, was justice served?
2 words, unequivocally, yes.
All right, back here in Dedham, John DePietro, was justice served today?
Absolutely not. No, this was, whatever had happened, the Commonwealth dropped the ball, the O'Keefes are out of luck. This is not how it should work, where witnesses are treated as suspects and you have all these people cheering.
Nick Rocco, 5 seconds.
Absolutely, justice was served for Karen Read. And, at this point, I think if anybody still sits here and says she's guilty, it's time to look in the mirror and face the facts of the verdict.
All right. Thank you all so much. Appreciate your insight. I want to bring in Court TV field reporter Cody Thomas, who's been scouring social media for reaction to this monumental verdict in the Karen Read case. What did you find, Cody?
Well, Vinnie, you saw firsthand today the passion that people were expressing regarding this verdict, and they were equally as passionate online. Of course, I found a couple posts. The first one was from a woman in support of the verdict, but she also, like many, want the police looked into. She says, hopefully now they will seek the truth and get closure for the family. If anything, this case has shown why people don't trust the police. If they did a clean investigation, they would have had the truth years ago. Now, anyone they go after has a defense built in. And Vinnie, that, revolves around the conversation of Canton PD and Massachusetts State Police looking inward into their agencies. So something like this doesn't happen again. The second comment, a woman who believes Reed is guilty but says the state couldn't prove it. Now, she says she hit him that night. I'm sure of that. Just not enough evidence to prove what actually happened. Let her conscience haunt her forever. That is, of course, if she has one. Now, Vinnie, of course, I also found some video reactions on Instagram, TikTok, and we know seeing people's real visceral reactions to verdicts is a lot more compelling. So let's take a look at a mashup of those.
The verdict is in, not guilty for Karen Reed. Let's go.
Wow. He was guilty of operating in
Tears.
And 003.
Could you imagine the release off of her?
Rereading.
Oh, wow.
There is enough doubt in many people's minds that believe that those cops set her up. What the heck does that say? That's crazy.
Because I didn't think I would get that emotional, but after seeing Yannetti wiping his tears and all of them crying and embracing, it kind of hit me.
Now it is time to get justice for both her and John O'Keefe, because whoever was involved in his death has not paid for what they've done.
So, Vinnie, a common theme we're seeing, people still want that justice for O'Keefe, but irregardless of how people feel one side or the other, Karen Reed is a free woman tonight.
Thanks so much, Cody. When we come back, I will reveal something else you need to know tonight about the next big trial here on Court TV.
Join Court TV's Vinnie Politan with the latest and breaking true crime stories.
Now, let's look at the other side of all of that.
Vinnie Politan Investigates, coming up next, only on Court TV.
It's the biggest story that we're covering.
He is the boogeyman.
So many eyes have been on Donna Adelson from the beginning.
A social media sensation, now a suspected killer.
Welcome back. Time to reveal something else you need to know tonight. Let's take a look at the big board, see what's happening in the world of crime and justice. DoorDash drama. Unbelievable video I'm about to show you of a potential witness in the Idaho student murders case that is coming up this August, the next huge trial on Court TV. She's caught on body cam being questioned and then identifies herself as a witness in the case. Take a look, take a listen.
And now I have to testify. Take part in the case here, so yeah, because I'm a DoorDash driver, so yeah.
You have to testify in which murder?
Murder case with the college girl.
Oh.
Unbelievable development. Let's take a look. We have a child who needs your help tonight, folks. Please take a look at the screen. This is Genesis Rodriguez, 13 years old, missing from Westbury, New York. Please, if you see Genesis, pick up the phone, make a call, 911, 1-800-THE-LOST, or you can call the Nassau County Police in New York. The number's on your screen. Let's get Genesis to a safe place tonight, just 13 years old. Don't go anywhere. We've got another hour of live true crime. In the meantime, please don't forget to hug the kids.